Subscribe to Chug Chow wherever you get your podcasts or visit chugandchow.com.
At the time of the recording of this episode of the Chug and Chow podcast, it is summertime. The sun is beating down, pools are packed, beaches are packed. People just looking for that opportunity to cool off a little bit, you know? I hope your AC is blasting you right in the face as you listen to this episode of the Chug and Chow podcast. Welcome to it. I am your host, Todd Newton, author of the book Chug and Chow, The Tattooed Traveler's 50 Favorite Dive Bars and Food Joints Across America. That is the book that started it all. If you haven't ordered your copy of Chug and Chow for your summertime road trip, your fall road trip, I encourage you to do that right now. It is available at chugandchow.com and on Amazon. And for every copy of the book sold, we, thanks to our partnerships with local food banks across the country, are able to provide 10 meals to families experiencing food insecurity. So thank you in advance. And we also thank you for subscribing to the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to us on. That way you never miss an episode. So we are glad you are here. Going to get things started. Taking you to Zanesville, Ohio on this episode. And we're going to dive spoon first into one of America's most beloved obsessions, ice cream. Now here's a cold, hard fact for you. The average American consumes about 20 pounds of ice cream every single year. Not that hard to believe, really. Think about it. Most of us down at least a pint at every sitting, right? That's roughly 4 gallons of the frozen stuff per person per year. And we have been in love with ice cream ever since it made its way to American shores in the 1700s, though its origins stretch back much further than that, possibly as far back as ancient China, where they mixed snow with rice and milk, or to the Persian Empire, where they combined ice with fruit syrups. But it was right here in the good old US of A where ice cream truly found its home, with Thomas Jefferson famously serving it at the White House and Nancy Johnson patenting the hand-cranked ice cream maker in 1843, which revolutionized how we make and enjoy this frozen delight. And what are we scooping up these days? Well, vanilla still reigns supreme as America's favorite flavor. And don't let anyone tell you it's boring. Vanilla's good. Vanilla bean. That's followed closely by chocolate and cookies and cream. But our story on this episode of the Chug and Chow podcast isn't about the mainstream ice cream stuff. It's about a place that has been serving up scoops of joy for decades in a city that you might have driven right through but never stopped to explore. Zanesville, Ohio is located about an hour east of Columbus, Ohio. We have mentioned Columbus a time or two on this podcast, Columbus, Ohio being the home of Dirty Frank's Hot Dog Palace. Zanesville was once known as the pottery capital of the world. And this city of 25,000 souls has weathered the storms of American industrial change. The famous Y Bridge, yes, a bridge shaped like the letter Y, still stands as one of only a handful in the world. And it connects the city's neighborhoods in a way that perfectly captures Zanesville's quirky charm. This is a town where nostalgia isn't manufactured. It's lived daily in the brick buildings downtown and the family businesses that have refused to give up. But here's something a lot of people don't know. Zanesville has ice cream in its very DNA. The city's frozen dessert legacy began way back in 1887 when F.E. Hemmer founded the Hemmer Ice Cream Company. Now, in those days, ice cream was still a luxury, churned by hand and packed in ice harvested from local ponds during the winter. Hemmer changed the game for Central Ohio, delivering his frozen creations by horse-drawn wagon to eager customers throughout the region. His company became a cornerstone of Zanesville's economy and culture, establishing the city as a destination for exceptional ice cream that would span 3 centuries. Through the Depression, 2 world wars, and countless economic shifts, Zanesville's ice cream tradition persevered, with recipes and techniques passed down through generations like precious heirlooms. Which brings us to Tom's Ice Cream Bowl, a Zanesville institution since 1948. Tucked away on Maple Avenue, this is not your trendy artisanal ice cream shop with exposed brick and Edison bulbs. No, Tom's is the real deal. Formica tables, vinyl booths, and a hand-painted sign that's been weathering Ohio winters for generations. You can picture the place, right? This is where families have marked birthdays. First dates have turned into marriages, and where the ice cream is still made the same way it was when Harry Truman was president. Now, in just a moment, we'll be speaking with Joe Baker, a man who embodies everything Tom's represents. Joe is not just the owner. He's been a part of Tom's story for nearly 50 years, starting as a teenager, scooping cones and working his way up to becoming the keeper of the flame. But here's the kicker. Making exceptional ice cream, which he does almost every day, isn't just Joe's profession. It literally flows through his veins. Joe Baker is the great-grandson of F.E. Hemmer himself, the man who started Zanesville's ice cream legacy back in 1887. And here we are, 4 generations later, on a beautiful summer day at the time of this recording, and Joe is still making every batch of ice cream himself by hand, using not only the recipes from Tom's original menu, but also incorporating secrets passed down from his great-grandfather. His passion for ice cream isn't just professional, it's ancestral, a family calling that spans 137 years. We've done enough episodes of this podcast that I don't feel embarrassed to admit to you that ice cream is my ultimate indulgence, my guilty pleasure. It's the delicious siren call that lures me in every single time, melting my resolve with each creamy scoop. Joe Baker, checking in from Zanesville, Ohio. I'm sure you can agree. It is your life, after all. Welcome to the CHUG CHOW podcast, sir. And let's begin with a little ice cream history from Tom's in Zanesville, shall we?
Okay. I'll start with Tom's history and then work into an actual history that goes beyond that.
Sounds good. We're along for the ride.
Tom's, let's see, about 1946 or so, Tom and Jack got the idea that...
And they were part of the Hemmer family.
They were 2 first cousins on their mother's side, and they decided they might want to make ice cream because the Hemmer Ice Cream Company had gone out of business, and Jack Hemmer was a Hemmer, so he could use the name. Not the Hemmer Ice Cream Company, but Jack thought he would get sued, which he would if he would use the Hemmer name. But Tom told him that I don't think you can be sued if you name it after yourself. So he named it Jack Hemmer's. Anyway, they started in 1948 on Linden Avenue. And within 2 years, the business grew exponentially because he's got the Hemmer name with him, even though it wasn't the same ice cream. They bought their mix. The Hemmer Ice Cream Company had cows. They had herds and things, and they made about 30 times the amount of ice cream I make now. But they 2 years, they decided to come over here to McIntyre, and they tore down a duplex at the end of what is Maple Avenue, the actual end of Maple Avenue, which butts out right at this store. And Maple Avenue is, I don't know if you know Zanesville much, but it goes all the way up north. It ends up being part of 60 and goes all the way through North Zanesville.
I've only been to Zanesville once, but from what I recall, Maple Avenue is pretty much the main drag of the town, right?
Yeah. And it butted out right here. So this was actually location. But they built this little store here, basement and all, and we're making ice cream over here. Well, Jack had some problems and wanted to sell his share to Tom, because Tom was the money man. Jack was the name and the face of
Right.
Tom's for those 2 years. And this place was named Jack Hammer Ice Cream.
And from what you've told me, he owned a pretty successful gas station at the time, so he really had to make a decision. You can't ride two horses with one saddle, so there was a big choice here.
He bought Jack's share out, and that was in 1953. In 1957, he thought he was going to get sued by him, so he named it Tom's Ice Cream Bowl.
On paper, it looks like this place has been bought and sold several times over, but in reality, it's always kind of stayed in the same intimate circle of friends and family. Who's next?
Late 1960s, a 68. I won't put a definite date on. Late 1960s, Bill Sullivan was working here as a kid in high school, went to the service, went to Vietnam, came back and worked here for the rest of probably a 2-year period. So he worked here about 2 years altogether, left again. And then Tom had a couple different managers and during all this time. And in 1979, he was looking for somebody to own the business. And I wasn't old enough. So, because I had been working here since 77, he found Bill, who I've known basically my whole life anyway. He arranged for Bill to buy the place by 1984. So Bill was the owner from 1984 to 2019. I was the assistant manager that whole time. So if you saw Bill here, I wasn't here. If you saw me here, he wasn't here. So we were here about the same amount of time till 2019, till he retired. Then I became the longest running employee of Tom's Ice Cream Bowl. So I've been here now 48 years. And I bought the place in 2019, November 2019, and I've owned it ever since.
You know, Joe, that's really special for a couple of reasons. Number one, to find a job that you love that much at such a young age that you want to do it for the rest of your life is really cool. But today, so many young people, you know, they don't see the value in a first job, in working your way up the ladder, no matter if it's at a fast food joint or a hardware store. But to spend almost 50 years at one place because you choose to stay at one place and ultimately choose to purchase it and own it and take on that responsibility is really a great story. So now you go from being this high school kid making ice cream, scooping ice cream, to being the big boss. That must have been quite a transition. Did you have a whole list of things that you wanted to do to kind of make it your own, to put your individual stamp on it?
I wanted to make it more of like it used to be. It was the place to be, you know. It was a destination. And so Bill had bought the little house next door. I took it and put a patio up. It's a cement patio with a fence, and everybody seems to love it. And I tore the house down on the other side and made a parking lot.
What about the inside of the place? There's definitely a sense of nostalgia there when you walk through the front door, almost as if you're stepping back in time. Did you touch that or just leave it as is?
And I refloored it. I gutted the kitchen and redid the kitchen. I did some in the basement, did a lot in the back room, so everything works a little more streamlined. And I have been the one that made most of the ice cream over the last 48 years.
And clearly you know your stuff. When I was researching this episode of the podcast, I was quite blown away, actually. Very, very surprised to learn that the ice cream industry in the United States alone is a $19.5 billion industry. That's a 2025 number. It's projected to reach well over $22 billion by the year 2030. And each year, the U.S. churns out 1.3 billions of gallons of ice cream. It's pretty crazy. Over 26,000 jobs directly related to the ice cream industry. And you've got your Ben & Jerry's, you've got your Haagen-Dazs, your Bluebell, your Baskin-Robbins, of course, Dairy Queen, Breyers. The list of these big-name brands goes on and on. Yet, for all these years, Tom's Ice Cream Bowl has been right there. Folks in Zanesville, Ohio say doing it better than anyone else. Do you feel like you've been in this bubble, this protective bubble, kind of untouched by the outside world? Or do you feel the pressure of these other brands? How do you, as the guy who's literally creating and producing all of these flavors almost, well, not single-handedly, you've got a great crew over there, but you're doing it right there in the back of the store. How do you kind of look at and define Tom's Ice Cream Bowl's place in this big billion-dollar industry?
Well, we sell some sugar-free that I don't make. The only reason I don't make it is because the ingredients usually have minimums. And to buy the minimum costs a lot of money, and then we got to store it. And so you're sitting on a lot of money. And I didn't want to do that. We also sold yogurt for a while. That's hand-dipped yogurt, not coming out of a ready-to-use machine. So we would make it just like the ice cream, and we sold it for a while. But the quality of the ice cream and the atmosphere of this place is what keeps it going. Most of word of mouth is coming back strong because these people are putting things on the internet and saying, "Oh, yeah, gotta go to Tom's," blah blah blah. You know, they say things like that.
Yeah. You know, there's a place on Cape Cod I used to go to with my kids when they were younger. Similar to yours in many respects. Everything was homemade. No one was rushed through the lines. The couple that owned the place were always there. They knew a lot of the kids by names and what their favorite flavors were. I always enjoyed that. It felt very special to me. I can also recall my grandmother when I was very young making ice cream in the backyard with the cream and the sugar and the milk and the ice and cranking it there. But that's really the extent of my knowledge when it comes to ice cream making. Give us a peek behind the curtain, Joe. What don't we know or see about the art of making great ice cream?
Well, we're very specific about what kind of mix we have and use. Right now, we're using all 14% mix.
Ooh, 14% mix. You're talking about the butterfat content, right? And 14% puts you up there. I mean, that's a premium classification, certainly higher than the FDA minimum for ice cream, I think.
When I started, it was 10. I don't know. Some of these companies make 10% mix, but once we got away from it, we just kind of stuck with it. As for the flavors, every flavor in this store is done to my taste.
What a life you've made for yourself, man. That's incredible.
Back in 70, let's see, I started making in 78, late 78. Bill came back in 79, and I was making some of the ice cream because I was still in high school. In the summer, I'd make about half, and then it came down to me, and I was making it all.
And what did the menu look like at that time? I mean, if you're carrying the entire load on your shoulders, was it just the basic flavors, or did it get pretty extensive?
We used to have maybe 14 flavors, and I started expanding flavors under Bill. To me, I eat ice cream wherever I go, and I'm type 2 diabetic, but I don't drink sugar, but I'll eat it. And I eat ice cream wherever I go. And Emack and Bolio's in the bottom of Hard Rock Hotel had a flavor, said something like Blue Sky, and it had like raspberry ice cream and blueberry swirls, and I think it had marshmallows. And I just saw raspberry and blueberry, and I said, well, I got to do something. So I turned around, I got home, and I made full-blown black raspberry ice cream with blueberry and red raspberry swirls in it, and chocolate chips, white chocolate chips, and fudge chunks. So that's berry chocolate bonanza. So, you know, it is fun to do things that you want, but you also pay attention to other ice creams that are the trend, like salty caramel became one of our regulars. We keep that year round, But I made salty caramel ice cream with salty caramel swirls and salty caramel truffles in it. So it's full of flavor.
You know, Joe, Tom's Ice Cream Bowl reminds me of our friends at the Sandwich Shop in Rutland, Vermont. They were on the podcast a few weeks ago, featured in the book CHUG CHOW. Really good people, third generation owners, small town there, downtown Rutland, Vermont, and they've had their fair share of regulars over the years, of course, but there are devotees, people that come in there every day ordering the same sandwich, to the point where eventually the sandwich on the menu board just gets named after that regular, a sign of appreciation, a sign of community. I would imagine over the years, the decades, you've had your fair share of regulars who have that one flavor that they've been getting for years. Are there any folks that have a flavor named after them because of their continued support of your shop?
It's something similar. Like cherry cordial, I don't take out anymore either. I made that for my Aunt Teresa. I was trying different flavors out on her, and she liked cherries, and she just went, "Oh my God, where did you get?" And I'm like, I put 3/4 chocolate in it, and then I cherry flavor the ice cream. So it's technically cherry chocolate ice cream, it tastes like a cherry cordial, and then I put chocolate swirl and cherry swirl in it, which is called variegate. I put chocolate and cherry variegate, swirl every layer. And also on every layer, I put cherry halves and chocolate flakes, because the flake is not a chip. It tastes different. It will imitate the outside of a piece of candy, a truffle, right? Like a vanilla cream. It's got that little that chocolate coating on it. Flat pieces do the job a lot better than the chips. The chips will crunch between your teeth, and they're a little harder. But I don't think you'll taste better cherry cordial than anywhere you go, because I don't think anybody's crazy enough to put 3 cherries and 3 chocolates in it. And that's what I have in mind.
See, I told you this was going to be the perfect summertime episode, regardless of what time of year you're listening to it. But this is summertime personified. Give me one more of your special Tom's Ice Cream Bowl flavors, something we're not going to find in the grocery store freezer aisle. One more.
My brother and I were walking, and they had this, they called it cow patty. And I looked at him and I said, I would never name, an ice cream after a pile of crap.
Yeah.
But it was a double chocolate ice cream. I think it had cookie dough pieces and Oreos and something else. We were both eating it, and I said, I can do better than this. And he said, really? And I said, yep. I got myself some Forbes chocolate, which is a powdered chocolate, which acts different in the machine. It's a double strength, so it's already double dark, and it comes out of the machine like pudding because it's so freaking thick because of the powder. And I put Oreo cookies, chocolate chip cookie dough, fudge iced brownie pieces, peanut butter cups, and white chocolate chips in it. It's called Double Chocolate Surprise because the only thing you can see in that thing is white chocolate chips. So you get something in your mouth and you're biting through it and you're going, what's that? Oh, okay, that's a peanut butter cup, So you're asking about regulars, and they all come in, and when you getting, they even call it DCS, which is what is on their bill, Double Chocolate Surprise. And when you get in DCS, but there's a thank you note in my bulletin board out in my vestibule that's thanking me for putting that back on the menu so quickly.
Speaking of your menu, I'm looking at your website, tomsicecreambowl.com. You can order, and they will ship to you nuts. They have candy. There are sandwiches available. Really great stuff. And just the history, the story of the place, you can see it at tomsicecreambowl.com. You mentioned some of those regulars. Since 1948, over 70 years, I would imagine at this point, Joe, the community is as much a part of Tom's Ice Cream Bowl as Tom's Ice Cream Bowl is to the community. Would that be fair to say?
This city is known for the Y Bridge and Tom's Ice Cream, Con's potato chips, and probably Adornetto's pizza. because we got the only Y bridge, which we're a half mile from.
I didn't know about the nuts and the candy that you sell. It looks pretty good on your website here, though.
I sell about 11 tons of candy and about 7 tons of nuts during December at Christmas. And people order from all over the United States for this. So they know us for that also.
Joe, looking back all the years, all the gallons of ice cream you've created, all the wonderful customers, is there one flavor that stands out in your mind for any particular reason?
Chocolate caramel marshmallow fudge was one of the first ones I made. I was trying to imitate a Milky Way bar. And it ends up, it's very similar to, fish food, I think came out right after mine did. It's basically the same thing. But yeah, chocolate caramel marshmallow fudge was me trying to make a Milky Way.
Joe Baker, owner of Tom's Ice Cream Bowl, Zanesville, Ohio, tomsicecreambowl.com. This has been a lot of fun, man. I don't get nearly enough opportunities to just sit and talk ice cream with one of the biggest in the business. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
All right.
I look forward to catching up with you next time I'm in town, man.
Yeah.
And that is a wrap for this episode of the Chug and Chow podcast. Thank you, Joe Baker, for opening your doors, your recipe book, your family history to us. You're not just making ice cream over there. You're keeping a 137-year-old promise to Zanesville, Ohio, one hand-churned batch at a time. I hope you'll subscribe to the podcast, tell your friends about us, write us a nice little review. That means the world to us here in podcast world. And to discover more great spots like Tom's Ice Cream Bowl, be sure to pick up a copy of my book, the book that inspired this podcast, Chug and Chow, the Tattooed Traveler's 50 Favorite Dive Bars and Food Joints Across America. You can order it on Amazon. You can also order it at chugandchow.com. We've got a lot for you at chugandchow.com. A lot of videos of my visits to these places and past episodes. chugandchow.com. All right. I'm Todd Newton. Until we meet again a little further on down that road, thank you for being here, and you travel safely.
Chug and Chow is produced by the host with the most LLC. All rights reserved.